Hey guys, Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Abominable. So, this actually just came out, so I'm actually on time for a review for once. Hooray! This is also brought to us by the people that made How to Train Your Dragon, which I thought was a series that got better. I thought the third one was the second and third one were better than the first. And yeah, it is a treat, I suppose, that they have come out with a separate little series here. We now follow a character named Yi. I hope I pronounced that right. It's Y-I believe is the spelling there. When I first heard her name, I thought it was Eve, but yeah, it's Yi. Who is a girl trying to make ends meet, by like walking animals. So I don't know when the timeline of this movie is supposed to take place because I don't think that happens anymore. I don't think people let other people walk their dogs. At least I've never seen that in a long time. Maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know. Nonetheless, she's making ends meet. She lives with her mom and her grandma, and we learn pretty quickly that her father has passed away. So, kind of like comparably, yeah, I think this is Dreamworks, if I'm not mistaken, that also did How You Train Your Dragon, so I'm assuming this is also Dreamworks. Um, if there was any company that I felt like is getting really close to butting against Disney, I would say, as of currently, it is Dreamworks. So yeah, and if they keep pulling out movies like this, I do think that there is room for some healthy competition, and I believe the other one that came from DreamWorks that was very, very successful was Kung Fu Panda. So, again, DreamWorks, to keep at it, because, again, I really hope that a company like DreamWorks doesn't get, like, gobbled up by Disney as another company, because, that would be a shame. I do feel like this healthy competition is where things should be. But anyways, I am getting sidetracked here. Let's focus on what actually happens in the movie. So Yi is living her life with, again, her mom and her grandma. She also has two neighbors named Ping and Jin. And pretty quickly it establishes that Jin is a bit of a ladies' man, I suppose I'll say. Not with her though, but they are friends nonetheless. They kind of butt heads and just kind of mock each other playfully as their relationship status is. I do appreciate where it ended up as the movie progresses. I really do enjoy these character arcs as they progress. So we follow these. We mainly follow Yi, though. But we are also cutting away at the beginning here to Mr., as they refer to him in the movie later on, Everest. So that's what I will call him for the review. In my notes, I did call him Ab, like just short, or Abo. I don't know. I'll just call him Everest, though, for the sake of simplicity. We see him escape some sort of top security lab, and this lady scientist whose name I forget, and this old man who really just wants this creature to, like, expose to the world for glory and fame. We see them send out their people, and they're sort of like the typical sort of henchmen that, like, goof up and do all that sort of stuff throughout the movie. So we have that going on as well, and eventually this creature comes across the rooftop of Yi's house. So, as coincidence would provide, Yi one day gets up there and then comes across said creature. Uh, so she sees that the creature is hurt and that it is scared. So we learn that she also plays the violin. She told her mother that she sold the violin to make money just so she wouldn't have to play for them. But she actually kept it because it was a gift from her past father. So it has that sentimental value to it. So we then see how she interacts, how she slowly builds the trust of this creature, tending to its wounds, um, and then playing a little bit of music for it. So it gets to the point of it being comfortable being up there. Um, so they hang out for a bit, and eventually, of course, Ping and Jin eventually catch on. Jin freaks out because, he's looking out for her, so he calls the cops, not fully understanding the situation. Of course, the bad guys are listening in on this conversation, so now they know where this creature is, so the chase is on, and we immediately go from that to, this helicopter giving actual chase, and the creature picking up Yi to carry her across the city, and they sort of try to flee from these guys. And she's trying to explain certain things, and this creature seems to have some sort of understanding of what she is saying throughout the movie. It becomes more and more evident that it is able to understand human interaction and pick up on things like that. So he eventually gets on a boat, or she assumes that Everest is a male, based on burping, I guess. Burping is a male thing. I don't know. Whatever. Fine. Small joke. Whatever. Jab. Whatever. Again. Anyway, so she takes him on to the boat, and then as he's trying to find a place to hide on the boat, he's too big, so she eventually crosses to the boat as well, and from there, Ping and then Jin also cross over as well, as Ping is the younger brother of the two, and Jin feels responsible for him as well, so he is being accompanied. And he's a very phone-occupied person, and I do feel like that comes into play on one of the morals of, we've seen the whole don't use technology as much as you do sort of moral before. And I do think her story is a little bit more compelling than his, of a girl who is trying to deal with loss in her own way. So she's trying to keep busy, so she's kind of avoiding her family, trying to avoid the emotional, confrontation that would come from that. So yeah, there is that as well. So they eventually decide to join this creature as they progress forward. So from here, we eventually have a long chase of, they go to a certain location, they hang out a bit, and the bad guys aren't too terribly far behind, and they are able to track the creature pretty well from its tracks, essentially. So, as we learn, the creature also has a ability to, when it hums or sings, that it is able to create life to an extent. Life grows, plants grow, and if the creature goes for too long, the life that is said created expands to a point of potential actual danger. So, but what the first time is harmless enough. They're hungry. It provides food. The food gets a little bit too big, and but they were grapes, so they just sort of pop. That's about the extent of it. And then the second time is a little bit more unfortunate, but we'll get to that momentarily. So again, they're traveling, and Yi eventually also discovers that they are also happening to travel the same course as her father once did when he was, I guess, a traveler of sorts. I think that's what that is implying. And they just so happen to be trailing that same course of pictures that the dad had taken along the way of whatever he was doing. Assumably, again, just traveling. I assume, again, there is a little bit of guesswork there, but I think that's the best answer. I don't know. Anyway, so to get to it, they tried to do it a second time, where they're going down this hill off the path while they are being chased on this boat. They're on the boat. They're going off the main path. So they're going down this hill of, like, I think it's like wheat or something, or like I forget exactly what it is that they're traveling through, but nonetheless they are traveling through it, and Ping suggests to the creature to make the hill that they're going down bigger and bigger, because, going down, fun. So it eventually gets to the point where it gets too big. They sort of tumble out, and in the process of this, Yi's instrument, the violin, is broken in the process. So she's distraught, and she sort of, makes her way to be alone. After a bit, Jin checks up on her, making sure she's alright. And, we have this nice little moment where the two of them talk about, she talks about how her father used to do this, play for her and stuff like that. Again, having these nice little moments. Again, something I feel like How to Train Your Dragon got better at as it progressed through its series. While also, doing the little moments of like, this part is like for the younger audience, obviously. And I feel like How You Train Dragon did that a bit more. Because there's a bit more to get from that, because it's a trilogy by now. And that does come into play for this movie as well, but we'll get to that at the end, obviously. So, we get that moment, and after their little talk, Ping calls them over, and we see that the creature was also able to fix the violin and repair the strings as well, using his hairs as the new strings, and this leads to some more interesting moments later on. And I got very much a Kubo and the two strings vibe from that setup as well. In the sense that when she plays, life grows to a smaller extent than the actual creature. So now she has the actual ability to do that, and they proceed to do that as they are traveling from these locations, and they eventually get to the last one that they were set to, which is like this temple area, which is like close to where they need to be anyway. And along this journey, by the way, I completely neglected to mention it, but I want to make sure that I'm covering my bases here. So, at some point, Jin gets separated from them. I forget where this happens, but I want to say he re-bumps into them and then all that other stuff happens. So I want to say near-ish the middle part, but before the adventure gets too crazy. They get to their first location, event where Jin gets separated happens, and then they go to the other locations. That's the order of which this happens. So, Jin meets up with the evil scientist lady, who, at this point, seems like she is the nice scientist lady. She's all talking about how animals need to be protected and all this stuff, and we seem to think that the old man is the one who's like, oh, kill, Everest, or capture it. And as the adventure progresses, as we see Jin in this little area, we find out that it is the actual scientist lady who is the one who wants this creature for the money, either dead or alive. And as it progresses, it's more warranted to her to want the creature dead, apparently. And as also the adventure continues, the old man, in turn of this, is starting to see the creature's innocence, its abilities, starting to see that nature itself is a lot more beautiful because he has been secluded in his little base for however long with said creature. And, we had the scientist lady at that point previously sort of going him up, citing him up to continue to hunt down said creature in her own way. And again, as the movie progresses, she becomes more and more unhinged. And he becomes more and more open to the idea of letting the creature go. So we have actual progression on our villain side, which is something that I feel I feel like I haven't seen in a while. It's weird. So we have two types of villains in this movie. We have the one that is becoming more and more unhinged by this willingness to get the money, and we have the old man who is slowly but surely starting to see that, oh, this creature deserves to be free, essentially. So that is a very interesting way of handling this, is having these two types of villains. One that becomes more and more good as the movie goes on, and the other who gets more and more cynical and desirable of just the basic desire of money and, what sacrifice she is willing to make to get said money pays its heavy dues later on, let's say, and we'll get to that. So they eventually get to this bridge where everything goes down. Jun had told them of their location, so they're going to be there. And as a consequence, they are there, they get there. The old man, again, has, at this point, kind of seen the world and now has seen this creature as innocent as it has been. And he's trying to tell the men to lower their weapons, and of course the opposing scientist lady is like, no, we have to shoot it now. And so they do. And Jin, and Ping are also there as well. So they're trying to lock up Everest in this cage, and they do so. Yi is not having any of this though, so she kind of tries to get the lady to stop. So she's now trying to. The scientist lady is trying to push her off of the bridge, and she does so. And I will say this is a little bit convenient for the movie, the most convenient thing that happens in the movie, where she falls down, and then later on we see there was this rope for whatever reason. So yeah, there is a major convenience here near the end of the movie. I do think that little part could have been handled a little bit better, obviously. Maybe setting up that there was something there before, and then, even if that was done visually, to indicate that there was some sort of rope there, because I didn't see it, and then she's suddenly hanging from a rope. And I could have missed it, that is very possible, but from what I seen the first time, there didn't seem to be a rope, so it just appeared, I guess, I don't know, and then she's sort of just hanging on from the rope. So the creature is being, taken away. And Yi has her violin, which has now had the power up of the creature's hairs. So she begins to play as they are starting to make their way out. And this causes, like, the blast causes Everest to, like, go mad mode, power up mode, I guess, and is able to break himself free from this little containment. And the scientist, of course, isn't done quite yet. She tries to flee. It looks like she's trying to flee, but more so over, she's actually trying to gain momentum. So she drives a little bit off and then comes back at full speed, hitting Everest in the process, hitting him into the mountain, which causes an avalanche, which in the process of doing this causes the avalanche to slide the entire vehicle that the scientist is in and our team to go off the mountain. So they fall presumably to their deaths. And the old man is like, "Whoa." And then Everest pops out of the snow because he was in the mountain, so he wouldn't have been pushed as well. So they continue. Yi continues her journey with Ping and Jin to get Everest fully back home to his parents. They are these huge creatures, and then they have a nod of acknowledgement. She says her goodbyes. It's a nice, emotional goodbye. And then we cut back to they eventually make their way back. X amount of time passes, I don't know. But Yi, gets hugs her mom and grandma, and Jin and Ping are in tow eventually, and they make a setup to a potential sequel here, where Jin and Ping bring in this box, and they hide it away from the mom and the grandma, and then Yi checks this out as well. They see that the old man has told them of this new adventure that is awaiting for them. So, hey, I think that's very successful clickbait, or sequel bait, I should say. Sorry, wrong phrase there. I heard clickbait too many times recently, so that was on my mind. Anyway, sequel bait. And, I've said this time and again. Sequel bait to me is very divisive. It could very well work, and it could fail. It's a gamble to me. And there have been movies in the past that have done the sequel bait and have never gotten a sequel so far. But considering that this is from the group that made How to Train Your Dragon, a very successful trilogy, I do see precedent for this sequel bait to exist in the first place, first of all, and it does appear that this movie was also successful in terms of sales, I guess. So, I think that was a very safe gamble in terms of, doing that. It's a riskier and riskier gamble to say that you're going to make a sequel on two terms. The first being if your movie is bad, and the second term is if you don't have the money to even make your sequel in the first place. So I think that they're fine on both fronts here. I think that they made a fine example of an animated movie, and as well, they already have quite a bit of money. This is Dreamworks, a very successful group. So again, I do feel like they have the ability to sequel bait correctly here in this scenario. So I actually look forward to seeing what adventures our three characters will bump into next. And it seems to even suggest that they won't even be bumping into Everest again. They might see a new creature, which is interesting and different from, How to Train Your Dragon of like you're following Toothless throughout the three movies. Here it seems to suggest, again, I could be wrong, but it seems to suggest that there is some sort of new creature out there that needs the three of their help to do something. So I look forward to that. And I really enjoyed this movie. Yeah, there was a little bit of wiggle room at the end there, but I'm willing to look past that because the majority of the movie was really, really, really great. It surpassed what I thought what this movie was going to be. I really liked Yi's journey again from this character that was so busy bottling up her emotions, and she was able to express those throughout the movie, and she was able to bond with this with Everest, and very much akin to, again, How to Train Your Dragon between Toothless and shoot, I'm blanking on the other character's name at this point, but nonetheless, if I were to give this a score, to me, this is where I would go beyond the normal 7 out of 10, and I'm going to push for an 8 out of 10. Again, I really enjoyed this movie. It did a lot better than I was expecting it to. Again, and I think if they just did that little setup of like, oh, that's how the character survived, I think this movie is even capable of hitting a 9 out of 10, which is something I don't usually give that very often, especially recently. I've not given a 8 or 9 out of 10 I felt like it's been a really long time, so again, I really enjoyed this movie. Recommend checking it out if you have not yet seen it. So that is my review of Abominable, and if you enjoyed my review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated, and until next time everyone, bye bye!